Hello and welcome to another episode of GSA Does That, the podcast that uncovers the stories behind the federal agency delivering effective and efficient government. I'm your host, Rob Trubia, and today we're hitting the road with special guest Len Fedoruk, the Director of Purchasing for GSA Fleet. Len draws on his 40-plus years of insider knowledge as a Detroit auto executive in his role at GSA. His job is to ensure that his government customers get the right vehicle at the right price, no matter what the requirements are. We'll learn about GSA's innovative efforts to lead the way in modern automotive solutions, including the recent delivery of electric buses to Zion National Park in Utah. We'll explore the successes and the challenges behind this groundbreaking project. And I'll ask Len to tell us about how these new electric buses are affecting the experience for those visiting the park. Len's an industry expert that's passionate, honest, and optimistic about the future of GSA Fleet. I know you'll enjoy this conversation. He's fun to listen to, and you're sure to learn a lot from his insights. But before we jump in, please be sure to subscribe to GSA Does That. And to learn more about our podcast, visit us online at gsa.gov/podcast. Len, it is great to have you here. Thanks for joining us on the podcast.
Rob, it's an honor. Thank you very much for asking me.
So you've got over 40 years experience as an automotive executive in Detroit. Tell me how you ended up at GSA.
You know, it's kind of interesting. My career has been my passion is autos. Okay. It's the industry itself. The opportunity presented itself in 2009, and a recruiter called me and just kind of said, "Hey, what do you think?" And I said, "Well, hey, it doesn't hurt to talk. I'm good at that." And went out to Washington, and all I know is I got on the plane, and next thing I knew, it was March 29th, 2010, and I started my career in the federal services with GSA Fleet, and the rest is history.
Good decision?
Yeah, absolutely. It really was a soft landing. I mean, coming from the industry, because, GSA kind of operates that way. We're really in the commercial market space. As the government's purchase arm, we're buying goods and services. I mean, in my world, it's looking at vehicles and vehicle products. So whenever it says automotive, they think of passenger sedans. Well, we're more than that. I mean, we do everything from, I'll use a technical term, Class 1 to Class 8. Class 1 is your passenger carrying, and your Class 8 are your big trucks. These are your tractors that pull semi-trailers, pull command centers. We buy it all. So, and the services that go along with it to kind of support those operations. So it was kind of a natural fit. And it was one of these things where I said, I'm going to give it a shot. And I think I'll leave when I stop having fun. And it'll be 15 years in March. I'm still having fun.
How about your friends in industry? They're like, what is Len doing?
No, it's been kind of interesting because, this industry is built on relationships. And it's really, everybody knows everybody. So it's one of these things where it's kind of like, well, you're going to bring some of the best practices, and you're going to bring some of our sourcing secrets to the government. You're going to use them against us. Oh, you betcha, because we're going to lower those prices, and we're going to get a lot smarter in what we did. And it's worked out. And it's been, I think, really, to the government's benefit. Let's take it all the way down to the taxpayer, because we're getting values like we've never seen before. Again, things are a little crazy in the market, still, recovering from COVID. We could talk a little bit about that. But no, it's been great. And it's been very well received because, they see it. Hey, he's one of us. He knows us. He knows the language. He knows the challenges. He knows the opportunities. And being able to convey that back to the federal government, I mean, just beyond being the purchase director, we respond to all kind of inquiries from the Hill, from the White House, from other federal agencies, and you're able to speak with authority on that.
Well, it's a cool job you've got. I mean, basically, it sounds like your job is to get the right vehicle in the hands of your government customer to carry out their mission, whether that might be the Department of Defense or maybe the National Park Service. And that's what I want to talk about to just kind of kick this off. You've got some pretty cool stuff going on at Zion National Park in Utah. Tell us a little bit about what you and your team are doing in Zion.
Well, again, Zion is one of the parks that we've done electrification, but I'll use the one. This is the big Zion. Again, they were up for replacement of their vehicles. They were running propane buses, and again, propane were a lot cleaner than diesel. But, the technology is there and it's evolved, and the timing is everything. And now what's happened is it's a combination of, one, helping meet the administration's objectives of looking at zero emissions. And the second thing is Zion is an amazing place. And what they wanted to do is kind of send a message to all of Americans. I mean, people even around the world that come to the park, that sustainability, environmentally stewards, and kind of returning the natural order. When you turn off an electric bus, you could actually hear the birds chirp. You can hear I'll use the term, the screams of joy of people enjoying the landscape. And the fact is that they're, as an example, the older buses were never air conditioned. These electric buses that are in there, different sizes, 40 and 60, I call them 63, but 60 plus. Passengers moved through the park. When we were there, it was like 107 degrees, and these buses were air conditioned. And people are like, this is absolutely amazing. But the fact is, people are looking and saying, hey, that's an electric bus. I've never seen one of those before. And when they look at it and touch it and feel it, it looks like a bus. It looks like what I'll see in my city or town or campus, but it's electric powered. It's clean, it's quiet, it's efficient, it's safe, and it's really cool looking. So what's happening is we teamed up with the National Park Service, and they had partners that they worked with, and they did their homework. Smart group of people. They worked with our friends at the Volpe Center, Department of Transportation, did their study, they did their homework, they developed their mission requirements, and they came to GSA. Okay, couple of reasons. One, we're experts in this area. Number two, we're the mandatory source for non-tactical vehicles, which basically means if you're buying a vehicle that doesn't have a gun barrel on it and it's a non-tactical, you come to GSA. Congress gave us that authority. Why? So we could leverage the entire volume of the federal government, go out there and get the best technology, the latest products and services from the best suppliers and at the best price. And so they came to us, and what we did is we ran what we call our play. My organization, we have 3 branches, as they call them, which are like departments, and vehicle engineering was deeply involved. And we had some great people in that group. And I mean, there's been just a host of other people that I just can't even name because it would take too long. But we work together as a team. So you have what we call the contracting or the acquisition side. Ours is the procurement side, which is the vehicle engineering, the purchasing, and voila. And here we are.
Talk to me about the charging. First of all, how long does it take to charge a bus? And did you say you put charging stations in the park, or how does that work?
Yeah, we didn't do it. Zion did. But what we did is our supplier that this was awarded to offered the charging infrastructure, the actual charging stations. And then, of course, Zion worked with the folks at the Department of Transportation and their supplier to the actual construction for it. A couple of things. You need about 1.5 megawatts of power in order to power up those buses in the number that they do in the routes. That was not a heavy lift for the park because they were very, very well on the infrastructure side as far as power. The second thing is that the charging units themselves were provided through the bus supplier that we work with. So you had the engineering teams. And again, I'll use company names here that we're not endorsing the products, but there's some very smart people out of there from Bort Warner. You had some very smart people from New Flyer MCI. You had some really, really smart people, again, from DOT Volpe and other consulting firms that worked with them. And what they did was, again, planning in this business is everything. You measure twice and you cut once. Do the development, do the planning, install the infrastructure. Because here's the wonderful thing about EVs. And again, the audience may not know this. We have a process in EVs that's called regenerative braking, which means when you take your foot off the accelerator and the vehicle starts to coast down, it turns that heat, kinetic energy in the brakes and the tires back into electric power and shoves it into the battery. So what's happening is that when the buses run their duty cycle from the beginning of the day to the end of the day, and they come back to the bus yard and they charge them, first thing they do is they're doing them after hours, so they're getting the best electric rate for the cost of the park, ultimately to the American taxpayer. And number two, by going up the hill, again, gravity, you're going to use more electricity. But when the bus makes the lap and goes down the hill, Now you're picking up that magic of brake regeneration and putting power back into the battery. And it's really extended the range dramatically. They have yet to run a bus below 20% of the battery. The park infrastructure has been very well developed as far as roadways. So what they wanted was to be able to send the theme that this is sacred ground. This is a sacred, this park was one of the original parks that was there. Let's keep it clean. And they have the ability to charge. And again, they have their maintenance yard there. Our supplier works with them as far as that of course, the vehicles are new, they're under warranty. But if there's I'll use the term, any technical hiccups or anything, they're readily available to service those units and make sure that they keep running. Work seamless as a team. That's something that a lot of people don't understand we do at GSA. And it's more than just buses. I could talk to you about ambulances. I could talk to you about mobile pharmacies to serve underserved populations for our VAs, our native tribes, and as well as other communities in disasters. FEMA calls us before, during, and after hurricane season for equipment, whether it's providing vehicles that we may custom engineer or something that we're buying that's commercially produced, or even our short-term rental program. Hey, Len, we need a bazillion electrical generators. We need cots. We need beds. We work with our other partners on the disaster side of the house, for example, for relief supplies, and we work with vehicles.
Well, you mentioned some of the other types of vehicles. Give us some specifics. I'd love to hear something really specific that a customer needed it and GSA came through and said, here's an idea, here's what we can do, and you sourced it, and now it's maybe commonplace.
Well, understand there's two sides of our business. We have the GSA Fleet side, which we operate a turnkey leasing solution for our customers. Got about approximately 235,000 vehicles in our lease fleet, which means an agency can lease from us. We provide the vehicle. We provide accident management. We provide maintenance management. We provide fuel cards. We provide safe driver training. It's a turnkey. And again, looking at it from the commercial market, we're much cheaper than commercial market because we have no cost of money. Okay. We're a federal agency. And so that saves our customers dollars. And so what they do is they rely on us, and what they'll do is, they'll come and say, hey, I need a vehicle. And we'll start asking questions. What kind of vehicle? What do you want to do with it? What kind of mission it's going to be? What kind of drivers? What's going to be your duty cycles? And those are a lot of what I'll call the off-the-shelf vehicles. So whether it's a postal inspector, whether it's I'll say law enforcement. We have a huge law enforcement program. We custom build vehicles en masse for all the federal police agencies, including the DOD. But on the special side, then we have purchasing. There are customers that have some unique requirements that they're so special that we typically don't lease those. But what we can do is, I'll give you an example, the Veterans Administration. They came to us and they said, we have underserved communities for our veterans in different regions of the country where typically a VA hospital may be literally miles away. What can you do as far as mobile services? What kind of services? Well, we need dental labs. We need prosthetic labs to help fit, artificial limbs, pharmacy trailers. We'd like imaging labs where we could do x-rays, MRIs. And we said, okay, how many? And when do you need them? And they were like, excuse me? I says, how many and when do you need them? So what happens again, our engineering team, along with our project program planning team, and of course with our GSA Fleet leadership, we all sit down and we look and we put together a project plan with the customer and we say, okay, this is what we have. We go out, we do the market research, we do the market test, we develop what we call the cost estimates, independent government cost estimates. This is what it's basically going to cost. Where are you on your funding? And we work with them. And once we do that, we sign that agreement, we get to work. And we'll go out and we'll work directly with our acquisition team, contracting for short, and we'll go out and we'll procure those goods and services. And the best thing about it is the majority of these pharmacy labs that we built, these dental labs, this mobile prosthetic limb, we call fitment, where they come in and they could get their limbs adjusted, installed, as we say, as far as once they're produced, by the VA from their source supply to fit the patient with it. The majority's are going to small businesses. So what's happening, these awards are going to small businesses. We have a cadre of suppliers that do these specialized vehicles. That money, that velocity of money is huge, and it's going in these communities. And you look at communities in the greater Cleveland, Ohio area, we've got suppliers out in Montana that do this, and typically in geographic locations around urban areas where employment is going to be critical. And these are American jobs as well. So what's happening is everybody's benefiting from this. And along with that, we're the stewards. We're making sure that it's built to the customer specification. If we have any questions, we bring the customer in. A good number of times, we'll bring them in as a sense check. We call it a design review. We have a pre-build conference, and when we kick it off, we come in and, hey, how's things are going? And this is what's involved. Let them take a look-see. And what happens is usually at the time of delivery, the supplier, a customer like VA, GSA, and the end user operators, they've known each other already because they've been involved in the process. Everyone's got skin in the game. And that's important because what happens is nothing worse than getting it and saying, hey, I thought this was going to be over here or that was going to be over here. It's the wrong type of floor. We're involved with the customer from the beginning of the project to the end of the project. And we make sure on the shakeout side, when it's delivered, that everything's taken care of. They understand their obligations to the vehicle. For example, warranty, who do you call? Where do you do it? And even in the meantime, we say after the fact, the supplier may offer service, but in the market space, if you need to get repairs on that, we could help you find a supplier to do that as well. And we may already have suppliers readily available on contract and say, hey, you could solicit your own, or if you like, we'll do it for you because we do assisted acquisition, which basically means you may not have to have a purchasing department or procurement shop. We'll do it for you at a very fair and reasonable fee, and we'll do all the work for you. All we'll do is sit down, work with you with the requirements, and we'll get it going because that's what GSA Fleet does. And that's what, again, within the federal acquisition services, we provide these other services. I mentioned disaster relief, IT computers. We work with our other sister organizations within FAS. If somebody needs communication systems, for example, for the Department of Homeland Security, when you go to the Super Bowl or you go to one of these concerts, or like here in Detroit where we had the NFL draft and took my family down there and they saw G plates on those vehicles, I said, guess what? My agency did that. We did that. And it's really cool stuff. So I think there really isn't anything that we can't really do. It's just a matter of what the mission requirement is, and so long as it's non-tactical. And if it turns out to be tactical, we know the right people in the Department of Defense that we could go to that customer and say, hey, you better talk to DOD because we know they're the warfighter. And if you have a tactical mission, like in some of the law enforcement, and kind of help them find a home in order to get the products and services they need. That's what we do.
You know, you might be a little biased when it comes to this question I'm going to ask you, but what kind of customer do you think GSA is for these automotive, just the industry as a whole?
They really enjoy working with us. I will tell you the government is a demanding customer. And again, part of it is communicating. This is one thing that, again, our executive leadership wants us to do. And I said, you got to understand the government has a very unique mission here. We like to spend money with small businesses. We're not throwing money around. We're just not sitting there, pushing cash. We're working with people that know what they're doing, but we like to make sure that spend is there. And if we're dealing with large businesses, we want to make sure that they comply with the subcontracting agreements, the flow down provisions of the contract. Are you giving that fair share of that work to small businesses out there? And what we refer to as startups, disadvantaged businesses, veteran-owned, women-owned, minority-owned. Make sure they get a piece of the pie. Because once that velocity of money starts spinning in the community, good things happen. Because, they got to go to the dry cleaners. They got to go to the fast food restaurants. And that money starts just the flow down in the community is just an amazing thing. And it's the same thing in the industry. So our suppliers know that, hey, when they get a government contract or they're going to at least apply, in this case, go through the process, that there's going to be some requirements that are there. The other thing too is it's kind of a badge of honor for them because a good number of the suppliers, the federal government, when they get a contract, and when state and local governments go to buy, and they say, we have a GSA contract, and the states know that we have a very disciplined, a very rigorous process of vetting potential suppliers, they're like, if they're good enough for GSA, they're good enough for us. And so what happens, a good number of state governments would benchmark us. And we're like, hey, wait a minute, you're a government entity. We'll just share the data with you. There's no secret here. Because it's all public knowledge. Now, I won't tell you some of my secret recipes of working with the team to negotiate pricing, but hey, the information is there to be shared. Why? Well, we're all paying taxes, state, federal, local level. Let's get the best value for the taxpayer. Let's get the right product and services when it comes to vehicles to meet the mission requirement. I mean, we have been honored. We've operated and supplied the fleets during the Afghan conflict. Okay? So we're taking care of the warfighter. We have operations around the world. We're running fleet operations in Europe, the Pacific Rim. So, we're in Japan, we're in South Korea, we're in South America, we're in Europe, we're in all North America. Wherever the American government has a need for vehicle products and services, GSA Fleet stands ready.
How many vehicles are you buying a year? Any idea? I mean, you must have an idea, but just roughly, how many?
Roughly, COVID, we're still kind of recovering with the industry. Typically, our buy is about 51,000. Last year, we did about 40, just a little under 43,000. And again, why? Well, what we do is there's magic in that formula. Vehicles get replaced because of life cycle and duty. Okay, so there are specific regulations for minimum replacement criterion for vehicles. But then again, there's new mission requirements when we do that. So roughly, when you look in the grand scheme of things, GSA as a buyer of vehicles to the industry, we're very, very tiny. We're very, very small. But we're the United States government, and they recognize that. And they come forward and they do some amazing things for the federal government, which translates in getting the right, again, goods and services for our agency customers to do their missions to serve the American people. So we're very well respected in the industry.
It's really obvious you love what you do.
It kind of creeps in.
Is it patriotism? Is it just this fire that you have, the competitiveness to get the best deal or is it the creativity of the engineering?
It's everything. I mean, it's everything. And, the thing is, I'm surrounded by an amazing team of people. I mean, I am just literally one spoke on a wheel in this whole operation. But everyone within GSA Fleet, I don't care if you're on the business management side of it. I don't care if you're basically on the other side. Of course, our field operations people are extremely passionate because we're taking care of customers. But I think I've always been a car guy. And, my career has spanned everything from the auto industry to a legal career, insurance, everything else, as far as that. But I always come back to cars. And that's it. And the big thing about it is it's really kind of cool. I mean, when I was at General Motors, I was in this side of the business. You would source with suppliers and everything else. But there's really something amazing and humbling when you walk down the street and you see a vehicle and it's got a GSA plate on it. And it's like, hey, we either bought it or we engineered it and we had it built. That's really some pretty cool stuff. And it could be anything. It's really kind of cool to go to some of these recruiting locations and seeing young recruits get out of a bus that has GSA plates on it, or a recruiter driving around in a very crisp uniform and he or she gets out and it's got GSA plates on it. And we're taking care of those individuals. It's really cool to know that if they need an ambulance at a VA hospital, that we provided it and it's reliable and it's safe and it's there. And if it needs to be fixed, we can get it repaired if they're leasing it from us. And even if they don't lease from us and they own it, we could say, hey, here are our repair centers that we use. Talk with them. Go to them. Use your purchase card. But give them the business, because the more government business they get, the better prices I'm going to get. And I'm all about price.
Well, Len, let me ask you, if listeners out there want to learn more about GSA Fleet, where do they go?
Go to our website, which is gsa.gov. And again, you could go through the menu that's there and you can look at all the different services and all the different units within GSA.
Well, a big thank you to Len Fedoruk for giving us an inside look at how GSA makes sure its customers get exactly the vehicle they need to meet their mission. I'd say Len made it clear that GSA Fleet isn't just thinking about the future, they're driving it now, with electric power leading the way. Thank you for tuning in, as always, to GSA Does That. And please don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform. And consider sharing this episode with friends and colleagues. To suggest a topic or guest, drop us an email at gsadoesthat@gsa.gov. I'm Rob Trubia, joined by our executive producer, Mr. Max Dempora. This episode was brought to you by the General Services Administration, Office of Strategic Communication. I hope you have a great rest of your day.